Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got another review. Today we're going to be reviewing this very tastefully modified 2018 Honda Civic Si. All right, so before I start off, I did just want to briefly say that I'm honestly not like the biggest fan of Civics, but everyone knows that they do have a very dedicated following, and they also get a lot of hate as well. That being said, anyone who knows anything about mechanics should at least respect how well the Civics have been engineered throughout their history. But honestly, like in my own opinion, overall, I really do think that the normal Civics, like the base model trim Civics, are fantastic dailies. But I also think that the SIs and Type Rs are extremely well engineered track cars that have really fantastic tuning potential from factory. So Honda Civics from factory do have a completely independent suspension because they are front wheel drive. But this car actually has, the owner opted to go with the D2 Racing RS series coilovers. So these coilovers are basically, they have a 36-way damping and rebound adjustable monotube design, and they are really perfect for the modified street car that also sees occasional track days, which is really exactly what this owner wanted. So now moving on, probably my most favorite aesthetic feature on this car has to be these ice white Cosmic XT 206R wheels that it actually sits on. Now these rims are not the flashiest, lightest, or most expensive wheels that you can get, but I do really love them because they definitely complement the factory white paint color of this car so much. That being said, these wheels aren't necessarily just an aesthetic mod. Yes, they're probably mostly for looks, but they actually are definitely considerably lighter than the stock wheels that this car comes with. All right, so now underneath the hood, we can see the 1.5 liter turbocharged double overhead cam inline 4-cylinder engine with 4 valves per cylinder. Now this engine actually from factory makes 205 brake horsepower at 5,700 RPMs and 192 foot-pounds of torque at 2,100 RPMs. So yeah, like I said before, this car, definitely isn't completely built or anything, but it's definitely, it's slightly modified and is certainly pushing more power than those factory numbers. Now the owner actually doesn't have it tuned, which, once he does have it tuned, it should definitely open up the car a lot more. But he believes that the power is right around like the 250 mark for horsepower, and obviously, the torque's going to be lower because the smaller displacement engine. So that being said, this car is definitely not stock, but it's, again, like I said, it's not built. Now this owner has actually installed this cold air intake from 27.1. Now most of the time I would say that cold air intakes aren't really worth your money, because sometimes it's just a tube with a pod filter. But I actually really like this design, and he really liked it as well. That's why he got it. So it's basically just the pod filter is completely encased with that box that separates the, the hot, engine bay air from the filter. And it actually has a tube that goes all the way down behind the driver's side of the front fender, or the front bumper rather, and kind of just sucks in air. Also taking a look underneath, I don't know if you guys can see this, but the owner has also installed an upgraded front mount intercooler from PRL, and basically all of the exhaust parts on it is PRL too. It's basically completely custom exhaust from the turbo all the way back to the tips. Now I believe that it's got a front pipe, it's got a down pipe, and I think he took out the resonators in the back. But needless to say, it definitely opens up the turbo, and when you pair that with the intake, it definitely gives it, a slight performance upgrade, and it definitely makes the car sound actually a lot better. I was really surprised when I heard this car, because normally I don't really like the way how four-cylinders sound, but this car actually sounds really good. It's not too obnoxious, and overall when you're driving it, I guarantee you it's a lot of fun. So yeah, like I just said, the exhaust is, completely done on this car. Now right now the owner actually has the heat shield off, so we can kind of see it. It's that gold pipe down there. But the owner does have a high flow catted downpipe. So he actually planned, the next mod that he does plan to do with this car is basically replace that with a catless downpipe. So it should make it a decent amount louder, and it should definitely open up the turbo a lot more. So another thing I definitely would suggest, or I would definitely do if I had this car personally, right after he did the downpipe, and he actually said that it is in his plans as well, but the mod after, getting the new downpipe, I definitely would get a tune on this thing, because right now it is, the modifications are doing something, but a tune really maximizes a lot of that gain, a lot of those gains, especially with modern engines, because they're so, limited from factory. Like, they're so limited for, emissions and fuel economy and things like that. So before we actually move on to the interior, I did just briefly want to mention that when you're under the engine bay, you can also see the coilovers that the owner has actually installed. I really like the stance that it gives the car. We talked about the suspension before, but it goes great with the wheels that he has on it. All right, so we are going to take this car for a spin real quick, but I did just want to mention that I really love the seat design that comes with this car. Now, these are just, the stock seats or whatever. They're fully, adjustable. They're not, I don't think, they're not electronic, but they definitely do hold you really well in place. When we're actually driving out here, I was in the passenger seat, and, the owner was taking corners and stuff like that, and they really just, hold you well and keep you planted while the car's actually driving. Hey guys, I hope you're really enjoying the video so far. As you guys can tell, it's a really cool car. Something that I actually completely forgot about while we were filming this car is I forgot to shout out the owner. Now the owner actually has a car page. I'll probably, pop it up in the video right now. And then I'll also leave a link to it in the description below. Definitely make sure to follow his Instagram if you want to see more of this 2018 Civic Si. Another thing too that I actually completely forgot to mention about this car. Now this car actually does have forged internals from factory, forged pistons and forged rods. So when it's in sport mode, which I'm going to show you guys in a bit during the driving part of this video, it can actually push 18 pounds of boost, which is kind of ridiculous from factory for a car. I hope you guys enjoy the second half of this review, and definitely be sure to like, subscribe. But thank you guys for the support, and definitely stay tuned till the end of this video. All right, so now we're actually in this thing going for a drive, and it sounds so good. And like, in my opinion, normally I'm not really this big like Honda fan or anything, and this isn't like a full-blown race car, but I do think that it sounds really good, especially when you actually get on it. Now, one thing that I did notice, or that I did just realize when I was driving this, is that it is a turbo car, and with all turbo cars, doesn't matter if they're stock or fully built, you have to keep the RPMs up when you're driving this thing, because you don't want it to bog when it has a turbo. Now, I don't know the full mechanics behind that, but I definitely know that is a thing. sounds so good. Alright, so I don't know if you guys can tell, but this thing pulls really good. Like, I'm very, very impressed with it. I mean, this thing is really fun to drive. It's super nimble. Like, this has probably been, so far, the best handling car that I've reviewed on the channel. And it feels really good. Like, I'm surprised the amount of torque that it does have with the turbo. Now, when the 10th gen Civics came out, specifically the SIs, they were actually the first Civics that didn't have K-series engines in them. This engine actually has a L15 is called. So a lot of people didn't really like it. A lot of Honda enthusiasts didn't really like it. But again, I think it's still engineered very well. I think it's definitely still a Civic. It maintains its heritage, and it feels really good when you're driving it. I mean, again, I know I'm saying this multiple times, but I'm not this huge Civic fan. Like, I know that they have a big amount of following, and I'm not a die-hard Civic fan. That being said, I'm also not a Civic hater as well. And just driving this thing, I'm very, very impressed. I did not realize that that an SI can really feel like this. This SI that's just slightly modified, keep that in mind. This car actually only has 15,600 miles on it. This owner actually has, basically he's had the car its entire driving life. So it's still like very new. And I mean, it's probably gonna last forever. I mean, I don't know if he plans to sell it anytime soon, or if he plans to, keep it forever. But I guarantee you both of those options are gonna be available for him because it's a Civic. And these engines, I mean, I have another one of my friends who has I think a 97, and it's got like 280 miles on it, or 300,000 miles. I don't know, it's something crazy. I'm really enjoying driving this thing. It's basically like an oversized go-kart. I know that term kind of gets thrown around a lot, but it handles very well. And it's not as light as, like, a Miata or something like that. It's light enough where, oh my god, that sounds so good. That sounds so good. It's light enough where you feel just the, 200 plus horsepower kind of throwing you back in your seat. Now, I haven't really gone full throttle. I kind of went full throttle before, but I don't even need to. I mean, this thing definitely handles extremely well and accelerates even better. Oh my god. Wow. So that was just the second gear pull in sport mode. I just put it in sport mode. With this car's sport mode, it's basically, there's a difference of 5 PSI on the turbo, so it's definitely a noticeable difference. But honestly, even when it wasn't in sport mode, like, it still pulls really, really well. So one thing that, while I'm driving this, I definitely do have to kind of keep in mind is that you actually do have to kind of ride the clutch a little bit, and because you want the RPMs up, because it is a turbo car. I know I said that before, but I keep kind of almost like leaving it in lower RPM band, because I drive a naturally aspirated car, so I'm not really, used to that. But that definitely is something to keep in mind if you have a turbo car, or you're looking to buy a turbo car that is a manual, because when it's an automatic, it kind of just does it by itself. So thank you guys if you stuck to the end of this video. I am going to be doing a lot more car reviews in the future, a lot more DIY videos, and a lot more car show vlogs in the future as well. So if that interests you, definitely be